Hey guys, welcome in Stinkin Truth Podcast. Mark Schlereth alongside Mike Evans. Mike, I hope you had a great weekend. Memorial Day. Thank you to all who served. We appreciate you so much. I did nothing but yard work for 3 days, and my father served in the military. My father-in-law served in the military, and I recognize everybody who has served and paid the ultimate price. That I have the freedom to torture myself for 3 days in a row of doing nothing but yard work, and I loved every second of it. Man.
What are you? Yeah, you kind of walked in here a little bit gingerly today. Yeah. You brag on a weekly basis here on this podcast about how yoked you are.
Yeah,
and yet you seem to have a little bit of hitch in your giddy up.
Yeah, my dad. You know, poolside. My father, poolside always used to say to me, growing up, is you got weightlifting muscles. You don't got landscaping muscles. And he used to bust my balls all the time about the difference between, football muscles or weightlifting. I always say this about football players in general. I was like, there's a difference between being weight room strong and on the field strong. And like weight room muscles don't really do anything for you. Like if you can't transfer that onto the football field. But I certainly do not have, my landscaping muscles are not what they need to be. So just so you know.
For everybody who's getting ready to do maybe a lot of yard work this spring and summer, what would you say are landscaping muscles that maybe they would like to, maybe get out and and brush up a little bit on?
Yeah, lower back, hammies and glutes,
haunches,
your haunches. Well, see, one of the problems I have is when I'm weeding, I can't bend my knees. Like that knee, I've had 15 knee surgeries on this knee. Can you see that? That's all the further that knee bends. That is locked, and that hurts right there. So I can't squat all the way down. So I either lay on the ground and weed, or I bent over, and I was standing up, but bent over. My hamstrings and my low back are just tighter than mouse nuts right now. I mean, they are just tight.
Can I tell a funny story about your knee not bending? So we're at the Super Bowl in Minnesota, and we're inside the Mall of America, and they have a amusement park inside the Mall of America with a roller coaster. So we decided to go on the roller coaster. And it's one of those roller coasters where, like, as they're going around some of the turns and stuff, there's not that much room. Okay? You need to keep your hands and legs
it's tight.
Inside the cart at all time. Well, so Stink gets in, and because of that knee not being able to bend, you can't close the door on the cart all the way. So
I couldn't know it was the thing to keep you in, whatever the restraining, like the little bar.
So you decided to go without it.
Yeah, I faked it like it was stuck down, but it really wasn't like clicked in, because my knee didn't bend.
Because your knee didn't bend, and so then we proceed to go on the roller coaster ride with you not buckled in.
Yes. So when the guy came to check it, I had it pressed against my thighs and was holding it. So when he checked it, it felt like it was locked in, but it wasn't. It wasn't locked in because we couldn't pull it down far enough. But yeah, that's just wise.
Yeah, that's just wise. Just
wise.
Working around a handicap.
Right.
That's all it is.
I know we got to get into the football stuff, but one more thing. I always have this coffee, and somebody told me the other day on the podcast when I
see at the bottom. Check the bottom.
The bottom is the thing, right?
Look at the tag. There's the tag.
Yeah,
tags. How long have you had that?
This coffee cup? Over a year.
And the tag's still on it.
Still clean as a whistle.
I would think that when that thing goes through the dishwasher, it would wear off.
This is the point. Is like any good American, I do not wash my coffee cups. I want coffee stains and coffee residue and just coffee stuff in there.
So you don't wash it? You just do a quick rinse and
just rinse it out.
You don't wash your coffee cup?
You don't need to wash a coffee cup. You want that. It's like your grill. Do you clean your grill?
Yes.
What?
Well, you clean. I mean, no, you get
some of the gunk on there, right?
Yes, I do, but I don't want charcoal. I don't want charcoal bits and stuff like that.
Well,
so I'll scrape that off.
Big charcoal chunks, yes, but you don't want the grit is what makes it. Plus, I think the grit and a little bit of the grime and the coffee sludge that's in the bottom of this cup, I think that's part of just really enhancing your internal, like your
immunity,
immune system. Yeah, I think it helps enhance, like eating stuff off the floor.
Yes,
like makes your immune system just a little bit strong.
Right,
yeah.
right, okay.
Yeah, so, I believe that to be true.
We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Do you wash your coffee cup, or do you simply just rinse it out?
You rinse it out and
you
let it get stained and, like I said, residuey.
Residuey.
Yeah, residuey.
Today's word of the day, residuey. Let's get to some.
Or if you're younger, do you wash out your bong, or do you, right? I mean,
good point.
Yeah,
let's keep it current.
We're in the state of Colorado.
Do you wash out your bong?
Right,
or
where
you simply
weed is. Yeah, okay.
That's not a bad point. That's a good question.
Right.
Should you clean out your bong?
I don't have a bong.
I know, but should you?
Right. Okay.
Okay. Coffee cups, bongs, same thing. Do you clean them out or just simply rinse them out?
All right.
Go. This is an interesting one. This came down just before we started chatting here. The NFL Players Association is working to finalize a proposal to overhaul the offseason starting as soon as next year. The idea would be to eliminate the OTAs that we're in the midst of right now, which will culminate with the mandatory minicamp, and then there's like a 6-week break until the start of training camp. What they're proposing is basically an extended OTA-style ramp-up where the teams gather in the late part of June and then go all the way right into training camp, right into the season, and roll. So we don't have spring football. Basically, let's put it this way. If you're a team that gets eliminated from the playoffs, your season ends in early January, and you are off until late June. Which would you prefer?
Well, I've had my disagreements with the Players Association and how we go about our business as players. It seems to me that we continue to negotiate professionalism out of professional football. And I will never understand these facilities that are they're hundreds of millions of dollars that have been invested in these facilities with state-of-the-art trainers at your beck and call, strength coaches at your beck and call. Like, you've got cryovac therapy, hydrotherapy, this therapy, massage therapy, chiropractic care. You've got it all right there in your facility, and you can train with guys who are like-minded and play the same position as you, that are the same level of strength and everything, that you can push each other. But we continue to negotiate, locking ourselves out of these facilities so we can do what? Go elsewhere and pay somebody to do the same stuff we could do for free. And we don't connect as teammates over the course of the entirety of the offseason. That stuff doesn't make sense to me. What, are you afraid you're going to become a better football player because your coach pops down and says, "Hey man, let me ask you a question about this," or "How do you think about this play?" or "What do you think about this?" Like, all of a sudden, like that is taboo. Like, we can't talk football in the off season. I don't understand as players what we're doing now. Like, you would think on the surface, right? You roll in June or end of June, and you roll right through training camp. Well, are we going to start doing double bye weeks during the season? Because, like, you think about that's, 6 weeks you're rolling into training camp. So your training camp lasts for, with the summer workout programs and everything else, you're in from late June till January.
And if you're playing the Super Bowl, you're talking about now the middle of February.
Yeah, February.
You're talking about a solid, almost 7.5 months?
I don't understand it. By the way,
6.5.
I don't understand. I don't understand the aversion to being around your teammates and being around the facility. I don't understand why that has become taboo.
But you're doing that. You would do that here. It's just that you would be you would be eliminating spring football. Because I have to ask the question, just as a football fan, what is the value of spring football? Because it seems kind of weird to me that you get together in April and May and the first part of June.
Mm-hmm.
You do all this work, you do all this install, all this conditioning, everything, and then you stop for 6 weeks. And then you come back for the start of training camp and start up all over again.
Mm-hmm.
It seems counterproductive to me. So why not just give these guys the spring off and then get together and then just go? It's full on from the end of June right through the end of your football season.
So basically, are you saying, like, you don't just stop?
You don't
Not
stop.
if you're a professional. You don't stop because all of a sudden you're not in organized team activities. Like, you ramp up your training in that 5-week or 6-week period. You get yourself ready for training camp if you're a professional. Like, this to me is saying, as players, we're not mature enough to handle our business, so we need to come in June and have you guys babysit us and get us ready for camp. Like, again, just because you play a pro sport doesn't make you professional. I guess maybe I'm just old. Maybe I'm, a dude on the porch shouting at clouds, but it just does not make a whole lot of sense. I understand, like, hey, ramping up and going right into training camp, but then at what point do you, like, as players, you go, this is too long. We've been here since June. I need time off. I need to run to Vegas. I need to, like, what are we doing? I don't understand what we're doing.
But I find that interesting that you say, all right, let's assume you're a professional, right? And so that time off between the end of June or middle of June at minicamp and the 6 weeks you have off, you're still being a pro. You're still working out.
Yeah.
So basically then you're telling me you're endorsing the idea of starting with the off-season conditioning program in what? Mid-May? No, April. Excuse me. In April. And going all the way from mid-April all the way through January. You're cool with that? That's a lot of work. That's a lot of football.
No,
that's a lot of training.
I'm saying, what's wrong with the way it is now, where you take that 6 weeks off in June? I'm not saying mid-April. I'm saying do it like what they're proposing is we don't do anything until June.
Correct.
We never get together until June.
Correct.
I'm saying, what's wrong with the way it is now? I don't understand today's players' aversion to being in a facility that's got state-of-the-art everything in it. I don't understand, like, why. But again, I think in my day, everybody used to live in the city that they played in. Now it's become much more transient. Everybody lives in different areas, whatever area they like, and a lot of them in warm weather areas. And then they roll into that facility for the season. And basically they're saying, we just like more time at home, in our home, as opposed to living in the area in which we play professional football. Joe Gibbs said this when I was a rookie. I'll never forget it. He said, hey, man, veteran players, you don't have to live here in the off season. And, it's voluntary. You can move here. But you don't have to live here unless, of course, you want to make the team. Then you should probably live here. That was
really taking the voluntary out of voluntary.
Right.
Huh?
But the whole principle was, I want you guys to lift together. I want you to train together. I want you to work together. I want you to coach little league teams together. I want you to barbecue together. I want you guys to be together so that, great athletes make plays in the first 3 quarters. Professional football players and character men make plays to win games in the fourth quarter. And we've got to rely on being, character men that have built together something.
Well, just wanted to pass that along because as football fans, it could be a big change to our off-season calendar that we have followed as fans.
I would say this. The other thing would be, what happens at the draft? So you draft these kids in April?
Yep.
And then
you don't see them until late June?
Until late June when everybody's together, so you don't get the Do you not get the rookie mini camp? Do you not do they not get integrated into your system?
Maybe you do a rookie mini camp before. So whereas everyone is getting together in late June, maybe the rookies get together in mid-June, and then the veterans come in.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. I came across this. I thought you'd find this interesting. The importance of finding a quarterback. Now, we may debate the way you try to find
the method,
right. But nobody can deny the importance of the quarterback.
Yeah.
And give you a little game here. What do the Arizona Cardinals, Carolina Panthers, Chicago Bears, Denver Broncos, Indianapolis Colts, Jets, Commanders, Texans, and Browns all have in common? Well, you know the answer. Let's just jump right into it.
Go ahead.
These are all teams that have used 11 or more quarterbacks since 2015. 2015, okay? A decade. 2015. In that time, the Cleveland Browns have gone through 17 quarterbacks.
Now, to be fair, I think they have 5 they played last year.
Okay, but they've had a carousel of quarterbacks. The Texans seem to have found their guy in C.J. Stroud, but they've gone through 14 quarterbacks since 2015. The Bears, Broncos, Colts, Jets, and Washington, 13 quarterbacks since 2015. And the Cardinals and Panthers, 11 quarterbacks since 2015. Wow. And what do all those teams have in common? Teams that have missed the playoffs for many years. Teams that have gone through different coaches. Teams that have been picking in the top 10 year after year after year. Again, you can argue the method to go about finding the quarterback, but one thing is clear. You got to find the guy. You got to find the guy.
You know what's interesting about this? We asked last week in the podcast, I think it was last week, what could possibly be the demise of this Teflon league called the National Football League? Like this league is Teflon now. You can't kill it. But what could be the kind of the catalytic event to actually kill the National Football League? No quarterbacks. And so what I would tell you is I'm not sure who's dumber, the players or the owners. Maybe the owners are just all about greed. But we continue to negotiate. Players are saying, hey, we don't want to come in until June. Now, we continue to negotiate professionalism out of professional football. And what's the cost? So I had Roger Goodell at a game I did last year, who I was standing on the sideline with pregame, and he's like, Stink, let me ask you a question. What are we going to do about all the injuries we have at the quarterback position? Like it's costing us offensive production, which eventually will cost us ratings, the whole kind of, chain reaction to what's happening right now in the National Football League. And I said, well, you continue to negotiate practice and professionalism out of professional football, and what's the end result? The marquee players that you market, that people come to see, that you have to be productive on the offensive side of the ball, continue to get injured. I mean, the number of injuries we've had at the quarterback position, Mike, I think last year we had like some 68 different starters start a game in the National Football League last year at the quarterback position. You know what nobody wants to see? A bunch of backups playing quarterback in the National Football League. That you want to see stars play that position.
All due respect, less Jake Brownings, more Joe Burrows.
Right. Yeah. Right. So like that becomes a real issue. And yet instead of giving players, lifetime health insurance benefits or things of that nature, we negotiate less practice, right? Less of what makes you a professional out of professional football, understanding that the fans are not educated enough, aren't savvy enough, don't care enough, whatever, to really look at the product and go, wow, it's been diminished. So at some point, if you continue to roll out backup quarterbacks who can't play and you continue to have, 13, 12 games, eventually it's going to cost you. And the two sides, this doesn't make any sense.
But is this all about, some of these are injuries, but a lot of these teams have gone through double-digit quarterbacks since 2015 in just large part because they just whiffed on guys.
Sure.
I mean, is that directly attributable to the way they've been developed and practiced?
Well,
or they just can't play.
Well, I would say this, like, what are your odds of playing and playing well? Are your odds better if you truly are professional, if you can run the ball, if you can actually protect the guy, if you can, if you can win in a myriad of different ways, or are your odds better just throwing a guy out there and saying, hey, good luck to you. We're going to get you sacked 72 times, but we hope it works out. Like, I think the issue that you get into is players can't win at the negotiating table when it comes to things that really matter. And let's face it, the average career is 3.2 years. That hasn't changed in, half a century. So as a player, you're looking not at necessarily things that are going to help you in the long term. You're looking at, I have to have mine short-term mentality. And the owners understand that. So at the negotiating table, what can you get from the owners? Well, you're not getting lifetime benefits. We won't give you that. So what can we do? Well, let's practice time, right? So let's squeeze ourselves out. Like, it's really interesting because the short-term nature of the NFL player, and I've been there, but the short-term nature, the lack of long-term vision, the lack of global perspective leads us to negotiate things that are kind of easy, if you will, and the owners are willing to give those things up, but to what detriment? I just think that we lack a long-term vision as players because we know the short-term nature of our careers. And so we want to maximize money. And I understand that part, but I think the owners have fooled themselves as well from the standpoint of what we're willing to give you diminishes the product we put on the field.
So you said something interesting there, which I want to follow back up on, is that because I've always just assumed that when you look at all these quarterbacks that bust out, it's just because they can't play. So if you look at all the mistakes that are made at the quarterback position, that's the reason. You seem to be implying something else. So if these guys could work and be developed and be coached and put in the time that you feel is necessary, if all of a sudden all these quarterbacks were given that opportunity, how many less would fail?
I mean, you're still going to have a fairly high failure rate, like you are with every position, because it's hard, and there's not, there's a very limited number of players who are really good, and so there's still going to be a high failure rate.
But what kind of number?
Well, I don't know the number. I don't know what you would say the past is, but I'm saying to give yourself the best opportunity to protect guys, to keep guys from injury, and to develop a guy over time would be to develop as a football team, to have multiple things, not just to make it, hey, it's a passing league, so let's just throw the football. Like, you've got to be able, it's like I always tell you about calling offensive plays versus calling an offense. They're two different things. And I just look at all those things. Like, what we do is we give up, what what we want for what we want now. And like the overall what we want, right, is so far off in the future that what we decide to do is we'll give up that dream of what we want for what we want right now. And what you want for the future, that requires discipline. That requires understanding. That requires an education on what's important, because I know for a fact you're not going to play forever. But, we give up what we want eventually for what we want now. And ultimately, that's what kills us as players.
So I mentioned one of those teams that have been going through the quarterback carousel, the Chicago Bears.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like they haven't developed a quarterback since Sid Luckman
way
back in the day. Kids, look them up.
Mm-hmm.
But there seems to be a lot of genuine enthusiasm about what they're building in Chicago.
Yeah.
With Caleb Williams, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Roma Aduzne.
Whatever.
So do you share the same kind of enthusiasm?
Yeah.
You got a lot of Bears fans watching right now who desperately want to believe that after all these failed rebuilding projects, all these failed quarterbacks, that they've got the right guy and the right approach. You willing to endorse it?
No.
Uh-oh.
No.
Darn it. I tried, Bears fans. I tried.
What?
All right, what's your problem?
So I would say you have addressed, you drafted Caleb Williams. Then you went out and got Adunze, or however you say his name.
You got it. You got it right.
Adunze.
Yeah.
So you went out and you drafted him. You had traded for DJ Moore, right? You've got Kmet at the tight end position. Like you went out and did you get DeAndre Swift at the running back position? You have got a roster of talent. Okay? And I know that you drafted a first-round offensive tackle to play right tackle a year ago or whatever it was. But again, I think the value, I think if you look at what happened to the Rams, that could be a great blueprint for you as a football team. So the Rams try to keep their receiving core together. Robert Woods eventually went off to Houston, but you had Cooper Kupp, and you had this roster of outstanding kind of quote unquote, offensive players. And you looked at that, and many people looked at you like you're a spread football team, and Matthew Stafford's distributing the ball all over the place, and Higbee's a good tight end, and this, that, and the other. You've got all these things going on. And then Andrew Whitworth retires. A couple other guys leave. You replace them with career backups, and you end up getting your ass kicked because the misnomer truly is that the Rams are some type of finesse spread football team when really all those years, not only with Jared Goff, but with Matthew Stafford, they were a downhill, smash mouth, run it down your throat football team. And I remember talking to it was the coach of the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell. And Kevin O'Connell saying, he's the head coach of the Rams, and he's watching a game. It was late in the season, or not head coach. He was formerly with the Rams, but he was watching a game late in the season. I think they whatever it was. And coaches just kind of have the TV on as they're game planning and doing things. And he was watching the Rams play in this season where they were getting throttled and not playing very well, and Stafford was getting hurt. And he was like, I look up at the TV, and all 5 starting offensive linemen was our look squad in the Super Bowl the year before. They were giving our defense the look, right? They were the scout team. They were the F troop, whatever you want to call them, right? And he's like, and they're getting throttled, the Rams are. And it just goes to show you the value of investing. So the Rams went ahead and they said, you know what, this isn't going to work. They got Jackson, they got Avila, they went out and got Dotson from the Steelers. They ended up investing 3 or 4 different guys in the draft. Avila has been he was a second rounder, really good player for them. But they went out and started investing in this, and instantly turned their deal around and went back to the playoffs a year later.
So you think the Bears are not building around Caleb Williams the right way? They're not investing in the right positions?
They're not investing in the right stuff. Like, hey, listen, man, how many DJ Moore is a legit number 1 receiver. I think Keenan Allen is a number 1 legit receiver. How many legit big time? I think their tight end is a big time player. I think DeAndre Swift is big. How many of those guys do you need? How many balls can you get each one of those dudes? At some point, you know what you got to do? At some point, you got to put your fingers in the dirt, cleats in the grass, and you got to kick somebody's ass. Can you do that? And that would be my question.
But could I counter with Cincinnati? Mixon, Lamar Chase, Jamar Chase, Higgins, Boyd.
Yeah.
Good tight ends.
Yeah.
An offensive line that got Joe Burrow beat up.
Mm-hmm.
Still went to Super Bowl.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. But how many seasons for Joe Burrow has ended in just absolutely getting the pummeled? Like, when you have elite level talent like that, can you have some success? Yeah, I think the outlier would say, yeah, you can. But I still think, man, you got to be able to run the ball. You got to be able to dictate to an offense. You got to be able to be physical, and you got to be able to protect your quarterback.
Especially if you want a sustainable model.
Right. Otherwise, the same thing that's happened the last 2 years is going to happen this year. You're going to have 60, 70 different quarterbacks start. And henceforth, the reason you got 17 different starters in Cleveland and 13 or 14 here and 13 or 12 here, whatever it is.
Final thought. Did you get the feeling that Roger Goodell listened to you?
No. No, because
thanks, Stink. I'll take that under advisement.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, again, but that's part of that is the Players Association. And part of that is the owners not giving up profits. They're billionaires for a reason. They understand how to make money. And, and the players are always going to be in the position. You just got to understand how it works. You got 80% of the guys making 20% of the money and 20% of the guys making 80% of the money. So there's 20% of the guys that can weather a long-term holdout. 80% of the guys can't. So you will never win that vote. You'll never, ever win the vote when it comes to, hey, we want long-term benefits. Hey, because only 20% of the guys can weather the financial burden that a holdout or a strike
Can I do a tease? Can I do a tease for the next podcast?
Yeah.
I'll tell you the solution to that in our next podcast. There is a solution to all that.
Really?
Yes, really. And also, coming up in the next podcast, you will address the criticisms that you are currently hanging from Sean Payton's nuts.
Oh.
Because that's out there.
That is
you are swinging from Sean Payton's yarbles.
That's right from the banana hammock, right in the tank area.
So we're going to address all that in the next podcast.
I'm all over it. Only a man with that head, that size of that head, would have the answer.
Look at it. It's not that big of a head.
All that is derailing the National Football League.
I have solutions.
You've got solutions. Hey, for everybody involved in the Stink Truth podcast, I'm Mark. He's Mike. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We'll talk to you guys later on in the week. Hey, for everybody involved in the Stinky Truth, we thank you so much. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for more content just like this. If you want to see more of our videos, you can also be sure to check out our playlist. Let us know exactly what you think in the comments below. We appreciate you guys so much for being a part of that.
Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.